Ever wondered why stress seems to rule our lives at times? Well, let's delve into the intricacy of stress to understand this phenomenon better. To start, stress in essence is a psychobiological process. This term might sound a bit intimidating, but it simply means that stress has both psychological and physiological aspects. On one hand, it is a psychological response because it involves our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. On the other hand, it is physiological because it triggers physical reactions in our bodies. Now, before we paint stress as the villain here, it's important to know that stress isn't always a negative thing. Surprise, surprise! In fact, it's our body's way of signaling us to respond to various situations. It's like an alarm system that goes off when we need to pay attention or take action. Stressors, the triggers of stress, can be both internal and external. Internal stressors are those that come from within us, such as our thoughts, emotions, and expectations. External stressors, on the other hand, come from our environment or situations we find ourselves in. Let's take a simple example to illustrate this. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. The traffic jam is an external stressor, while your thoughts about being late and the potential repercussions are internal stressors. Both are working together to spike your stress levels, causing your heart to race, your palms to sweat, and your mind to race with worry. So, stress can be a friend or a foe, depending on how we perceive and respond to it. It can help us stay alert and focused in challenging situations, or it can overwhelm us if we let it. The key is to understand it, to manage it, and to make it work for us, not against us. Stay tuned as we unravel more about stress in the next scenes, where we'll discuss the fight, flight, or freeze response, and the role of cortisol in stress. Until then, remember, stress is not always the enemy. Sometimes it's just our body's way of saying, "Hey, pay attention, something important is happening here." What happens when we encounter a sudden stressor, like a snake on our walking path? Well, our body has a built-in survival mechanism designed to protect us from immediate dangers. It's called the fight, flight, or freeze response, and it's as primal as you can get. When faced with a sudden threat, our body instantly decides whether to fight the danger, flee from it, or freeze in place, hoping the danger will pass by. Let's break it down. When our brain perceives a threat, it triggers the release of adrenaline. This hormone prepares our body for immediate action. Our heart rate quickens, pumping blood to the muscles. Our breathing accelerates, supplying more oxygen to the body. Our senses become razor sharp, ready to react at a moment's notice. This is our body preparing to either fight the threat head-on or run away from it as fast as possible. But what about the freeze part of the response? Sometimes neither fighting nor fleeing seems like a good option. In these cases, our body might choose to freeze, essentially playing dead, in the hope that the threat will lose interest or not notice us. It's a bit like when you're watching a horror movie and the character hides in the closet, hoping the monster will pass them by. Now, this response is perfectly suited to dealing with physical dangers like that snake on the path. But in our modern life, the threats we face are often not physical, but psychological. A difficult conversation, a challenging work task, a looming deadline. These are all stressors that can trigger our fight, flight, or freeze response, even though they're not life-threatening. In these situations, our body's reaction can seem like an overreaction. Your heart racing because you have to give a presentation at work. That might seem excessive, but it's important to remember that your body is just doing what it's been designed to do, protect you from danger. So the next time your palms get sweaty before a big meeting, or you feel an urge to run away from a difficult conversation, remember, it's just your body trying to keep you safe. Our body's reaction to acute stress can sometimes be an overreaction, but it's just trying to keep us safe. But what about when stress doesn't let up? What happens in our bodies then? This is where cortisol, a hormone produced by our adrenal glands, steps into the spotlight. Think of cortisol as your body's built-in alarm system. When you're faced with a stressful situation, your body goes on high alert. It's cortisol's job to ensure that your body has enough energy to deal with this stress. It does this by increasing your heart rate, blood pressure and blood sugar levels, while also suppressing non-emergency bodily functions like your immune response and digestion. In the short term, this is useful. It's a survival mechanism that's been fine-tuned throughout millennia of evolution. But what happens when the alarm doesn't switch off? When stress becomes chronic, that's when cortisol can become a problem. You see, when cortisol levels remain high over extended periods, it can lead to a variety of health issues. For instance, prolonged exposure to cortisol can contribute to heart disease. That's because high cortisol levels can lead to increased blood pressure, which over time can damage your heart and blood vessels. Another potential consequence of chronic high cortisol levels is weight gain. Cortisol not only increases your appetite, but also signals your body to store fat, primarily around your midsection. And let's not forget the impact on mental health. High cortisol levels can lead to anxiety, depression, and difficulties with memory and concentration. Even sleep isn't safe from cortisol's effects. High levels of this hormone can interrupt your sleep cycle, leading to insomnia or other sleep disturbances. So you see, cortisol, while essential in handling immediate stress situations, can wreak havoc on our bodies when levels remain high over time. It's a clear example of how too much of a good thing can turn bad. Chronic stress and high cortisol levels can have serious health impacts, so it's essential to manage our stress effectively. This isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It's about safeguarding our long-term health and well-being. Why is it important to understand stress and its effects on us? Well, knowledge is power, my friends. Recognizing stress as a psychobiological process helps us become aware of our stress levels and how our bodies react. This isn't just about the fight, flight, or freeze response, or even the role of cortisol in chronic stress. It's about the big picture, how stress affects our overall health and well-being. By understanding these processes, we can take proactive steps to manage our stress effectively. Think about it like tuning a musical instrument. If you know how the instrument works, you can adjust it to play the perfect melody. Similarly, if we understand our stress, we can adjust our responses to it. Simple techniques like deep breathing, exercise, Want to rise to your full potential in your studies and revise like a boss? You can trust Study Guide today to have you covered. Subscribe to this channel and see our website linked in the description of this video to see revision articles to maximize your study gains.